Do you want to bring balance to all the wireless radiation fields in your life, including 5G? The Omnia Radiation Balancer is a small sticker you can stick on any device. It changes the state of the field and creates a new resonance between the wireless radiation and your energy field. On the link below, you'll see all our testing results that show how the body responds excellently once you've made this change in your life. And here's a special offer for the Journey to Truth crowd. Just enter the word truth in caps at the checkout for your 10% discount. It's easy to bring balance back to your body with the Omnia Radiation Balancer.
How many masks do we need to wear to be safe?
Yeah,
My first
four. Somebody posted a video of a guy in an airplane putting on 4 masks.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, and he was really into it. You know?
Yeah, I'm like, like that's almost like suicide.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to suffocate yourself.
Right.
Well, I mean, the cortisol levels go skyrocketing because your lungs are working so much harder to breathe in and out. And cortisol is a stress hormone that will destroy your body. I mean, it just destroys you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. Exactly.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. This week we are joined by Jock Doubleday. Jock is an American writer, researcher, stoneworker, videographer, among many other things. He spent 23 months, I believe, at the Bosnian pyramids doing research there. We're going to get into a lot of, I would say, more earthly based stuff. We're always up in space, talking about all that stuff, but we're going to ground everything today and get into some of the stuff that's happening here on Earth. And Jock has done some great research, and we're excited to have him on the show. And before we get started, don't forget, tickets for the conference are on sale May 2nd through the 5th, Grafton, Illinois, $444, 4 days, 12 speakers, includes meal plan. Live stream tickets are available for $111 if you can't make it in person. We're really excited about that. It's coming right up around the corner. So stay tuned for some, we're going to be doing some roundtables, getting some of the speakers on. We're going to be having a lot of fun with that. And you guys know the promo codes. Those are all in the description below. Omnia Radiation Balancer and Hopewell Farm CBD. And we might be affiliating with our friend Mason Feary. We've had on the show before. He has some amazing orgonite pyramids, and we might be working with him too. So stay tuned for that. Jack, I almost called you Jack. Jack, how's it going over there, man?
A lot of people, they don't believe that my name's really Jock, so they call me Josh usually. I say hi, I'm Jock, they go, hi, Josh. I mean, there's not a lot of people with that name. It's a Scottish name. My dad was named Jock, and my dad's uncle was named Jock, and it's not a nickname saying that I'm an athlete. It's actually my name, but people seem to have some problem with it because it's unusual,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This whole episode's about your nickname. How Jock is not an athlete.
Well, if you have a name like that, you're pretty much destined to be on the fringes. So that's why I'm here today, is because of my name.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
Right. So you've obviously you take your work very seriously, and I've seen some of your videos on continental terraforming and expanding Earth theory, which is really fascinating to me. So can you just give us like a brief background on how you got into this stuff and what you really want to bring forward today? Because this is all fascinating stuff that's not really common knowledge.
Well, that's an understatement, Tyler. Yeah, it's not really common knowledge. I mean, it's just a theory right now, a continental terraforming theory. It's just a theory that I'm proposing, sort of as a balance to the natural geology theory, the origin of continents. It's an odd tale, that I have to tell, because I'm a writer. I'm a playwright and a screenwriter, and I just started a film company last year called Arcturus Light Films to make my 30 years of screenplays into films, so sci-fi, fantasy, fairy tale films. But I don't want to say, but I took a a diversion, a road less often taken for a writer, which was to go into archaeology. In 2011, I volunteered for the Bosnian Pyramids Project. They had a program that started in 2010 for volunteers to come for 4 months every summer, when the pyramids were safe to work on, because you weren't slipping off, these 43.5 degree angle slopes of the pyramids, and excavating Ravne Tunnel, which is a prehistoric tunnel that's part of the system that was also discovered by Semir Osmanagic in 2006, I believe. The pyramid complex was discovered in 2005, and the tunnel soon thereafter. He asked the children of the village of Visoko, which is centered in the Bosnian pyramid complex, if they played in a tunnel or a cave, and they said, "Oh yeah, because he knew he'd been an adventurer around the world. He'd been exploring pyramid complexes all around the world for 10 years and was writing books on them. He's a real life Indiana Jones, and he came back to his native country of Bosnia and was invited to go to Visoko, which is in the heart of the Bosnian pyramid complex, and to see the museum. He'd never been to Visoko, even though Bosnia is a pretty small country. He'd never been to this little village. So he went to the museum, and as soon as he got there, he noticed that there is this hill. It's called Visočica Hill, and Visoko and Visočica refer to it means high. So when you're on top of Visočica Hill, you have a vantage point, as you would, let's say, this Matterhorn in the background here. If you were on top of that, you could see everything. Well, that's exactly what it is in Bosnia. So the kings of old would build their fortresses on top of this Visočica Hill, and Semir said, "That's a pyramid." He's been exploring for 10 years. He knows what a pyramid is. He got out his compass. He saw it was oriented to the cosmic north. He went on top of it that day, right away, brought some people up and saw another pyramid across the Foinica River, started naming the pyramids, and he knew he was going to get ridiculed for this because no one had seen them, because they have a different kind of building than the pyramids on the Giza Plateau, than the Central American and South American and Mexican pyramids. It's more natural looking. So people hadn't realized it, and people are living on the side of the pyramid today thinking it's a mountain. And when they dig down, they find these stones, which are, we could say, they're obviously artificial if you know they're artificial, but if you're not looking for that, the sizes of them and the shapes of them are so odd. They're not molded in a Roman way where it's right angles. They're different shapes. There's curves in them. There's no stone is the same as another stone. So I wrote an article called "No Two Stones Are the Same" on my An American in Bosnia site, WordPress site. So you can get that article. It's unbelievable. Hundreds of millions or more, maybe billions of artificial claystone construction stones in the Bosnian pyramid complex. And we haven't found one that's identical to another stone. So the homeowners digging down for their foundations were finding these interesting looking things, but who could really say for sure that they were artificial? So, just cart them off. And that's what happened for centuries. So they're living on the side of this massive pyramid, which is, except for Britannia Mountain in Serbia, eastern Serbia, it's the tallest documented pyramid in the world. Britannia Pyramid actually is 1,565 meters. The Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia is 220 officially meters, and the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau, for reference, is 147. So 220 versus 147, pretty big, right? But actually, it's much bigger than that, because as I found, if you follow the topography down to the riverbed, it does join the riverbed, in which case it's about 380, 390 meters tall, which is astounding compared to 147 for the Great Pyramid, which is quite a large structure, So I went to volunteer in the summer of 2011. I wrote to the foundation. I said, I do stonework, and I'm excited to help you, and I sent my stonework pictures, and I thought they'd be like, oh, he's a friend of a shovel, let's have him be a volunteer. And they're like, oh, our program is full for this summer. Thank you for writing. And I was like, I'll see you soon. Because if I show up, are they going to say, we can't use your help, sir. No, I figure I'll just show up. I'll pay my way. I'll buy a shovel. I'll buy 10 shovels for the foundation because I'm excited about this. It's an interesting, fascinating mystery. Why are there pyramids in Bosnia? So I went out there. A friend who I'd met through the social media Bosnian Pyramids networking, which back then was really small. There was almost nobody that believed in pyramids in Bosnia. So it was just me, this guy, and a few other people. And, he found me and he said, I'm a Croatian researcher. I've been doing research in the Bosnian Pyramid complex for years. Can you come out and film me doing my science in the complex? And I'll pay for your food and lodging for 2 weeks. And I was like, awesome. So, I did that with him. And then he took me to meet Semir, but we didn't arrange a meeting. Semir's pretty busy. So I write comedy as well as drama, and this is a rather comedic tale of meeting Semir. But he's always mobbed by the tourists. He's mobbed by the Bosnian natives who love him. They call him the doctor. He's like the guy who read all the books. He's got a PhD in Mayan studies. His book, The World of the Maya, it's a PDF, free PDF online, is so astonishing. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat all day long. It's the tale of a real life Indiana Jones, as I mentioned. It's unbelievable. So his learning, his wisdom, his soft spokenness yet firmness, his ability to manage a big crew of Archaeological Park Foundation employees to excavate the Bosnian Pyramid complex. He's an astonishing fellow, and people just flock to him, and everyone wants a selfie with him.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for him to be free, so I could say, "Hey, I'm that guy who wrote you that email." Like he would even know that he's not answering those emails. Somebody else is. Exactly. But I was so naive. I was like, "Remember me? I'm the stonework guy." So. I had to wait for him to go to, he was walking to his car because he was going to Sarajevo. And I started to talk to him a little bit, and he got into his car and was like, oh my God, he just got into his car and I haven't asked him yet if I could volunteer. And so I got into his car. I would never do this in a million years. I'm pretty shy. I would never get into somebody's car unless they said, please get into my car, So yeah. I got in his car and he turns it to me and he goes, why are you in my car?
Who are you?
And I was like, I could see that he was in a rush, and he was very nice. He said it in a very nice way, but he just wanted to know why I was in his car. He thought I wanted to ride to Visoko, and he's like, well, I'm going a different way. Sarajevo and Visoko are different roads. So, and I said, here are the 7 things I can do for you. I do stonework. I'm a friend of a shovel. I just went on. And he said, organize a scientific conference. I'll give you a hotel room and a breakfast. And I said, okay. And I got out of his car and he went to Sarajevo. So I organized a scientific conference. It's an international scientific conference. It was the second one of 6 now of scientists who had been to the complex and performed research on various aspects of the Bosnian Pyramid complex, including many things in Ravni Tunnel, which is an astonishing labyrinth. And we can get into that if you want to. It's unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot I want to get into about the actual pyramids themselves and a lot of theories and stuff that I read online and videos I see that I can't prove one way or the other. And I just, I find it very fascinating. Even as I just read that apparently the funding was cut like a year ago. So there's no research or no further digging or anything happening on the pyramids now because it wasn't attracting enough tourism. So they just cut all funding and stuff. I don't even know if that's accurate.
Well, the drama of the Bosnian Pyramid complex is astounding because academia was against it and they attacked it from day one. And then they went silent when they couldn't shut it down with lawsuits and petitions to the Bosnian government to shut it down. Then they went silent on it. So it's basically verboten to talk about Bosnian archaeology of any kind, not just the pyramid complex, but if it's from Bosnia, we don't want to hear about it. So that's academia. And the fossilized leaves that have been found underneath some of the construction clay on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun have been carbon dated to 34,000 years. Which means that at a minimum, it's somewhere around 34,000 years, give or take a couple hundred years, which sets the history of building back, not necessarily human building, but the building back on Earth quite a bit, because Göbekli Tepe is supposedly 12,000 years ago.
Right.
Yep.
And
And that's the big world changer, game changer, you know.
right. Well, there's like, I think Graham Hancock thinks, I said Hancock. Graham Hancock thinks that his speculation is the pyramids were in Egypt were built 36,000 years ago, or 36,000 BC. So that's his speculation. Obviously, mainstream hasn't caught on.
I think they're at least that old. Personally.
Right. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Bosnian pyramids are that old, in my opinion.
Yeah, easily.
Right. Well, Samir just keeps doing science and hopes that people will engage the science, because there's so much drama with personalities around, you know, ancient history, and it's always a cult of personality battle. And it's like, why? Let's just do the science. He keeps saying that, you know, he just outright says that.
Let's do the science and see.
Let's do the science, please. We're wasting energy. So,
not the COVID science, though.
Right.
Well,
science. Right. I know.
Yeah. If we go down that rabbit hole, we'll never get back to the pyramids. But
no, exactly. No. Yeah. Stay on track. Yeah.
I mean, So, but it is all a thought control matrix. It's all about the thought control matrix. So.
Yes.
A lot of ancient history researchers talk about amnesia. They say humanity is in a state of amnesia. We've forgotten who we are. We have essentially PTSD from these cataclysmic events, and we said no, we don't want to remember, and so we're in this state. I would suggest that we take it one step further and say humanity has never known who we are. We've always been in the thought control matrix, and one step further, perhaps we could say that we're in a consciously controlled state of hypnosis. In other words, are the thought control matrix creators constantly bombarding us with frequencies that keep us from being telepathic, that keep us from remembering who we are? Right. If you're a farmer, you don't bring the livestock in and then set up the fences. You set up the farming system, then you bring the livestock in. So I think on day one, when we were created, the farming system, the thought control matrix was set up, and we have never known our potential, our power, our beauty, our incredible connection.
I feel like that's very accurate. Yes.
I think so too.
It would make a lot of sense too. And that's why it's been so easy for them. Until now, everybody's starting to question and everything's chaotic, but I agree 100%. And that's a great analogy.
Now their system's crumbling and they're scrambling to try to keep it going, but they can't, because it's like, there's like this inevitable awakening and destruction of the old system happening that they can't stop. It's like, they can't stop it. And it's almost like they know that now. So they're just trying to delay things as long as possible, cause as much chaos and destruction and fear as possible on their way out. You know, it's
I agree. And the funny thing is that they have these paper thin systems set up that if we ever ask the question, are we in the thought control matrix, we could just blow on it and it falls apart like a house of cards, you know?
Exactly.
So Wikipedia is such a joke because that's so obviously a control system. And I'll give you some photographic examples of this. It's unbelievable what they do. It's so elementary and so sort of like a 10th grader who wants to be a magician and he learns his first trick. That's basically what Wikipedia is. It's that elementary and that's stupid. I mean, it's just, oh my God, you know, but we have to be able to ask the question, are we in a thought control matrix? Is there someone behind this who doesn't want us to know? Because otherwise you'll just think, oh, it must be true, you know?
Yeah. Wikipedia said it must be true.
Right.
Yeah.
The authorities say that it must be true. Yeah. And you get stuck in this, it's mind control. That's literally what it is. It's, you think something's true because you're told by something you perceive as an authority. That's literally simplified.
And people think mind control is, oh, that's some kind of weird woo-woo sci-fi stuff with machines. And it's like, well, there might be some machines broadcasting some frequencies, but the basic mind control is simply gaslighting you by repetition, just telling you over and over and over. And we're going to get into that with joint fractures in geology.
Exactly.
And I have quite a little slideshow for you. We used to live in Ecuador when I was a kid. We were there for 3 years, and we'd go down to Peru and we had these butterfly nets, and we'd go after butterflies like these crazy Europeans running around Peru, in the forests, going, look at that butterfly, and so my dad would take photos of everything, and then he'd have these slideshows, and he had the carousel, and he'd click, and the next slide would come up on the screen, and the family would sit there and look at the slideshow of what we did, And so I feel like that's what we're doing here. I'm just carrying on Dad's tradition of the slideshow. So I have all the images set up for you.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, like the mind control, their whole thing is tell a lie so many times, repeat a lie so many times until it becomes true. And then it's like a consensus reality. Enough people believe it that it actually becomes a reality for those people, which we talk about all the time. But going back to the pyramids, do you know about those metal rings that I'm reading about, those big metal rings that they're finding towards the top of the pyramids?
Yeah, that was, I remember reading about that when I first started researching the Bosnian pyramids. And I think that those were for ships when there was, when the water level was much higher there.
So it was more modern?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
No, I just remember, that. It's been like literally, it's been 10 years since I remember reading about that. But yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's interesting. Yeah, the metal rings. There's so many. See, the thing about the Bosnian Pyramid Complex is so amazing to me is that it's all still a mystery. We keep discovering more things, but we don't understand. It's more mysteries. It's not more answers. So it's compelling to me. I'm really attracted to that complex. Really attracted to it.
Right. It's like Oak Island.
Yeah. Well, right. All these mysteries. Doesn't it draw you? I mean, to me, it really draws me.
Yeah. No, that's like it's almost a passion for me. Like it literally drives me. Like I love it. I could drop everything and go explore the pyramids or Oak Island or something until we find the answers. Like I'm just like driven by that stuff, fueled by that stuff. So I totally understand your passion for it. Absolutely.
Well, if you ever want to go out to the Bosnian pyramids, I'd be happy to go with you. And I wouldn't take the role of a guide exactly, because I don't want to tell anyone what to see. That's the problem with guides. They're telling you what to see. I'd rather be, and that's the problem with geology teachers. They take you on a field trip and they go, this is what you're looking at. And it's like, why don't you just have them look at it and they'll tell you what they're looking at,
Yeah.
But it would be fun to revisit the Bosnian pyramids and go into the riverbed and see what you thought. And so right now, see, the riverbed is the key to it all. This is the genesis of the continental terraforming theory. That's why we're talking about the Bosnian pyramids. If we say this talks about continental terraforming, well, I have to talk about the Bosnian pyramids because it was there that this odd idea started to occur to me based on what I found in the riverbed. If you want, I can go into the riverbed exploration.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and I think you've used the term artificial riverbed, right?
Yeah.
So explain that.
Since I started researching 9/11 and vaccines and everything, I've had to start most of my conversations with, this is going to sound crazy, but.
Yeah, been there.
And so I'll just do that again, it's going to sound crazy, but here's the deal.
Bring it on.
But I just want to, because it's important that people understand that I wasn't just sitting in my chair and I came up with this idea. Oh, the earth is shaped like a triangle that flies with wings of a dove. No, I didn't just come up with an idea. I was literally in the field for 23 months in Bosnia every single day, except for maybe 4 or 5 days when I was in Serbia or down in Sarajevo at a conference. But I was in the field every day. I woke up in the pyramid complex. And by the way, in the pyramid complex, I only needed 5 hours of sleep. And normally I need 8 hours of sleep. So you can have
the frequencies there. I've heard Sam talk about the frequencies in the tunnels and even the energy beam that's being shot up as high as they can measure. We can
I don't know if you know Ken Rolla is, but I was just the other day, I was listening. He's awesome. I was listening to an old presentation of his, and he was talking about the Bosnian pyramids and how he's like, yeah, people are going in there and getting healed of all these diseases and stage 4 cancer and all these crazy things because of, I guess, the frequency that's inside of there.
It's like the frequency that that's supposed to be on the surface, but it's been tuned away from that but
Right.
those chambers underneath for some reason still resonate at that frequency.
Yeah, the Robney Tunnel Labyrinth, we can go into this later, has the 7.83 Schumann resonance healing energy in there, and it has many other features, and we can talk about those. There are so many healing testimonials, it's astounding, and I have a lot of them on video. And
Nice.
People can see a playlist of healing testimonials of people that I interviewed who had just been in the tunnels and come out and were like, what the hell just happened? Parkinson's disease gone, chronic sinus infections gone, endless stuff. It's way more than I have. I mean, there's hundreds of testimonials. I have a few on my healing testimonials playlist, which is the Bosnian Pyramids YouTube channel. So you have to type in the whole friggin' URL because YouTube, you can't, it won't come up. You have to type in.
Well, yeah, if
YouTube.com Bosnian Pyramids.
If you type it in on YouTube, you're going to get a bunch of videos that say it's been debunked.
Debunking.
I already found that. I need to be healed. So let's book that trip, and I'll see you over there.
Well, I mean,
you're back.
The foundation, just to be clear, doesn't make healing claims for the tunnels. What they do is they push out the people's testimonials saying, I got healed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, this is what happened. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's like,
because this lady goes on video in Bosnian. She's saying, my hearing came back. I don't have to use a hearing aid anymore. Thank God. Thank the gods. Thank the gods. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But go to my channel, look at the healing testimonials playlist. I mean, you got endless testimonials. So we'll get to that, but and we'll get to the scalar conundrum beam on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. It's astounding, and I have a whole folder for that. So the riverbed, I was there for I was there for 3 months as a volunteer, but then I went back to the States and I kept in touch with Semir because I was writing articles on the Bosnian pyramids, ancient history. And I sent him this long chronology of the attack that academia made on the Bosnian pyramid complex. The article is called The Mysterious Anti-Scientific Agenda of Robert Schoch. Now, it's not about personalities, but in this case, I have to use the name of the person who was basically slandering the people involved in the Bosnian pyramid complex and not using science. If he was using a scientific method to say, no, this is just natural hills, that's great. That's great. But he wasn't doing that. He was performing anti-science, and I just document it. So this long article, and he's just the tip of the iceberg. All of academia came down hard on this thing, man. They really tried to shut it down.
And Robert Schoch he's like where Grant Hancock is. He gets into the alternative.
Yeah, he's an alternative guy.
I've heard him on a radio show. Actually, I was watching him on Fade to Black, and he was slandering the Bosnian. They both were. They were talking about, it's just a hill. Yeah, there's nothing proving it's a pyramid. Blah, blah,
well,
blah.
the thing is when a structure is that ancient, we don't know the building techniques, and it's not going to look familiar. We're acting like they're going to use the same techniques that we understand. And something like, who are these ancient builders and these ancient archaeologists? Like, we don't know anything about them, and you have to open your mind and basically, you have to look at it from a different perspective if you want to understand it.
Exactly.
Right. I think many times in my videos, I said exactly what you just said, which is that they don't build in the same way that we do. We would build this hill in a different way. They have a different idea of how to build things. That's just but the building is clear. In other words, there's compelling evidence that it's built. And I'm just going to present that evidence today, but I want to show you the genesis of the theory. So we're going to be in the riverbed in the Bosnian Pyramid complex. Now, the main structures of this complex are sort of bisected by this little meandering river called the Fojnica River, Fojnica. And it goes north through the complex. Very few rivers flow north, joins the Bosna River in Visoko. That's why Visoko is there in the heart of the complex, because these two rivers join and they both flow north as the Bosna or Bosnia River, Bosna Rijeka, okay? Now, this north-flowing Bosnia River is interesting because, like I say, very few rivers flow north, and I think it's an interesting thing that this should be explored. Why are these rivers flowing north and most rivers aren't? So the Fojnica River is the star of the show. The Bosna River's got too much water in it to really see the structure very well. But in late summer, the Fojnica, which is smaller and rather placid and rather shallow, you can get in it, and it's fun. You put on your sandals and you walk along, and the water comes up. It's nice and cool, and there's fish in there, and the water comes up to your knees or something, and you just walk up the river, and there'll be a Bosnian native inner tubing down the river as you're walking up with your camera to explore the river. But nobody except me was exploring the riverbed, because everyone's up on the excavation sites on the hundreds of feet up on the pyramids. That's where the sites were. But between the pyramid and the river was Visoko. So people were just like, oh, the pyramid starts somewhere over there on the other side of the town. They didn't come to the river. The river was just for recreation. You take your family down there and you have a picnic. That's what the Bosnians are doing. So the tourists never went down there. So I thought one day, it was late August, and I had come back to do videography for the foundation, because Semir, like I said, I kept in touch with him with these articles after I came back to the States in 2012, 2013. At the end of 2013, he said, hey, why don't you come back, make some short scientific videos for the foundation, 2.5 minutes each, on various aspects of the complex, the water in Ravne Tunnel, the megaliths in Ravne Tunnel, the healing energy in Ravne Tunnel, the concrete on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, the claystone plateaus on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon. I said, yeah, I'll do that. She said, okay, get a professional camera and get a laptop. Because when I'd first come to volunteer, I brought my desktop, and he was like, you got to get a laptop. So I said, okay, I got a laptop. I've got a camera that was light sensitive for Ravne Tunnel, so I could see, so we could really see what was in there, because even though there's artificial lighting, it's basically just dark, and then there'll be this little light by a megalith or something, and it's not, you need a light sensitive camera. So I got that, all the associated equipment, went out there in the summer of 2014 when the volunteers were coming. So I interviewed the volunteers, I interviewed the scientists, and I did all that, got the videos done. And at the end of the 4 months, I said, all right, well, I could stay. And the comedy continues, because I'm not a videographer. I'm just a guy with a camera. I'm a writer. So this is the cosmic joke, that all the videographers in Europe who should have been doing this job that summer weren't. I, a writer, was doing this. It was totally ridiculous to me. I would have handed the job over to any professional videographer who came and said, can I have this job? Yes, because I wanted it to be done right. But I was doing my best with a really good camera, and all I would do is point it. It was on auto. I'm just telling you. It was on auto focus and auto lighting every single minute. There was no time to be screwing with the manual focus or anything. There was no time in the field, because you just go up to somebody and do an interview, and and I didn't know what I was doing. So I just pointed it, and then I made my little videos with I had barely enough skills to put a video on YouTube. And I'm like, well, I should be writing a screenplay right now, but I guess I'm going to be the videographer for this most active archaeological project in the world, So it was weird, but it was awesome. And so after 4 months of that, I said, I can stay. And he said, okay. So I stayed. The scientific teams came through the winter, and it became to be spring, and I was still there, and I was writing articles for Wikipedia, which they immediately rejected, and for Wiki News, which they immediately rejected, on the Bosnian pyramids.
Of course.
But I was trying my best to get information out to people about Bosnian pyramids. So then summer comes. I go, should I stay in the summer too and do the same thing I did last summer? He's like, sure. So it comes to be I was there about like 17 months at the end of end of July, early August. And I was starting to think, would the ancients have set their pyramids on the earth next to a river that could flood and take the pyramids down from the side? Or would they more probably build their foundations down? And if so, how deep do the foundations go? Where does the pyramid start? Where do these pyramids start along the Fournier River? And I thought, I wonder if the riverbed's built, So I went down in it, made a video, and I found the same building. Now we're going to go into exactly what that building is. It's very simple what the ancients did. They used clay throughout the complex in different consistencies. So what they did was they'd have a soft earthquake mitigating layer, 1 centimeter, maybe it was 3 meters. It changed all the time. The thickness of the layer was always different. Or they would have a hard structural layer, which was composed of a hard baked clay stone set next to another hard baked clay stone, set next to another hard baked clay stone, in between which was a centimeter of soft earthquake mitigating clay in between each stone, and on top of which was soft earthquake mitigating clay. So every hard baked clay stone was packed in with soft clay that would allow the structure to move and just stay there. It's a genius building. It's not like the building, like I said, in around the earth where the structures are a little bit more brittle. They don't have the softness to take the kinetic energy of the earthquake. So it's absolutely a genius building. What they did, they alternated soft and hard layers. Now, so I saw in the riverbanks, they had the same building. And I thought, okay, so they're built too. And then I noticed that the river bed for about the first, like if you put a yardstick down into the deepest part of the river and maybe about one or 1.5 yards up, and then went across to the riverbanks, from that point down, they didn't put any soft earthquake mitigating layers in the riverbank. Or in the riverbed. So I'm going to ask you guys now, why do you think the ancients didn't put soft earthquake mitigating layers in the riverbed?
Put us on the spot like that. I don't know. Enlighten us.
I honestly don't know.
The water action would take out this. See, I might not have made it clear. The soft earthquake mitigating clay is, you can press your thumb in it and you get a thumbprint. I mean, you can just scoop it out with your fingers. It's really soft. So the water action would erode in the main part of the river. The water coursing through is so strong that it would erode any kind of soft layers. And then the hard structural layers would fall and your riverbed's gone. And that's your foundation for the pyramids. So the foundation's gone. So they adhered baked clay layers to each other in a strong way, but clear, thin layers. Then, in fact, let me just show you, since I have all these photos, I might as well get to them. I can show it to you.
Oh, let me allow you to screen share. Hang on.
Okay.
You should be good. Yeah. So you're saying the riverbed's more like a foundation?
Yep.
So it's clear that it was an artificially created riverbed. Like they created it. So to me, that's a lot of proof alone that that's a created pyramid, not a hill.
Right. Well, and the fact that they run north too, which unless you tie it into like inner earth theories at that point, I wonder how much of this ties into underground cavern systems also. And where does that river flow in the inner earth?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Right. Yeah. All right, so this is Bosnian Pyramid Complex looked at from the north. You see the meeting of the two rivers. On the right is the Fojnica River, on the left is the Bosna River, and they're both flowing north toward us. So we're looking at the northern side of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Behind it is the Bosnian Pyramid of Love. And then behind those, on the left of the river down upstream, is the Temple of Mother Earth, and further off to the left, you can't see it, is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon. So along the Fojnica River, all these structures find themselves. Now, here's another shot of the placid. You can see the placidness of this river. The ancients built it to not be a turbulent river that would take down their pyramids or destroy their structures in any way. They made it very, very slow moving and placid. Now, this is the first thing I saw when I went down into the riverbed of the Fojnica River. It was August 5, 2015, and I took a photo, and then I made a video, and I said, Samir, this is built. And he said, it would be a lot of work. That was the only thing he really said about that. And the foundation, Archaeological Park Foundation, still hasn't sent a team down there because it's kind of a wild notion that somebody's building a riverbed. But to me, it's obvious that it's the foundation of the structures in the complex. Now, this 45-degree angle construction, I didn't notice the specific angle when I first looked at this. I just noticed the layers. And these are baked adhered clay layers. There's no soft earthquake mitigating layers in this. This is all adhered. Really, really strong concretized clay. By the way, the origin of the word clay goes back to a Proto-Indo-European word called gley, Gley. And from gley came the word clay, which we think of as dirt, and the word glue. So back in time, the ancients thought of clay as glue. They used the glue, they baked this to itself. These pure clay layers are baked to themselves, and then they're also joined to the next thin layer and the next thin layer and the next thin layer. Somehow they joined these layers as if once they laid them down, they then heated them up with some kind of sonic heating technology. So they all melted a bit and adhered to each other. Who knows how they did it, but there's no way we could do this. I mean, so I thought, well, this is interesting. I didn't realize until many years later, after exploring the two other continents, riverbeds on two other continents, that this was the angle that the ancients used in general, the structural angle for the bases of hills, as well as the pyramids in the complex. This 45-degree angle construction is found all over the world as the primary angles of construction for riverbeds and creek beds. And any little creek or riverbed should have this primary 45-degree angle construction. We're going to see more of that. So let's see. This is the river bank. Now we have the soft earthquake mitigating layers that have been, ravaged by a recent flood. A couple of years before I took this, there was a flood, and it took out the soft layers. And then you have these hard baked clay stones with their, vertical sides, and
right. That doesn't look natural
to me,
at
it's
all.
clearly built.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? And so, and that's just sort of a quick glance at the creek bank, and then you've got the soft layers below. But then as we get lower down, then now I have to explain this photo. In the middle, the thicker hard baked claystone layer, all right, is the place where the soft earthquake mitigating layers don't happen on the left side of the photo. It's all baked, adhered clay layers. As we go down toward the river itself, everything's adhered. There's no way they were going to let the water mess with soft earthquake mitigating layers until it gets to right here. So this is the first soft earthquake mitigating layer. All this other crappy stuff on the left is all detritus. It's all clay detritus. It's not layers. The soft layers start here, and they're very thin, very thin, very thin, very thin. As you get up the hill, Osceola Hill is on the right, Bosnian Pyramid, the sun is on the left. We're facing north right now. As you get up the hill, you see much thicker, softer earthquake mitigating layers. So they put these really thin layers in. You can see how it's eroded out. Mm-hmm. Even though they started way up on the bank, the river would flood and still would start to erode their structure. But even that, even this little layer stayed strong. This little soft clay layer, this layer stayed strong. Some of these are eroded, but that's how they did it. They made sure that they used baked adhered clay layers in the riverbed itself. So let's continue. Oh, this is me being, too detail oriented, but I just figured I should make it clear with some arrows.
I feel like you should be using an ancient alien voice right now. Could it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll always ask the question, but you know what they're thinking, but they put it in a question form.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Is it? Yeah.
It's always
ancient astronaut theorists believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Let's zoom back. So we'll keep this up. Now, after finding this, and I told Samir about it, he was kind of like, well, it'd be a lot of work. So there wasn't much of a reaction on the part of him or the foundation, and he created the foundation to oversee excavation in the complex, the Archaeological Park Foundation. So I thought, well, I got to explore this and see how far the building goes. No one else is doing it. So here I am. So I went sort of back behind us in this photo. I went essentially upstream outside the complex to see if, where the building began, because I was just interested. And so I went to, let's see, a place near the bottom of this photo first, took a taxi out there. Then I took a taxi, and then I took a van with some friends to the Dragica, which is the main tributary. And we put in just about where that little water droplet is. So about almost a mile, west of the little town of Vojnica Grad, as they call it. We got in, and the Dragica is also built. So I thought, well, if the Dragica tributary is built, and there's 12 tributaries to the Vojnica. This is the Vojnica here. There's 12 tributaries to it. Maybe the other 11 tributaries are built too, but I'm a playwright and a screenwriter. I have other things to do besides spend my entire life looking at every single tributary to the Vojnica River. So I thought, well, I've already documented that the main tributaries built at least to that point, maybe further, but I only have one life, so
Yeah. Right.
I'm thinking maybe some geologists or archaeologists would want to do this. I don't know. So then I made some videos of all of that, so you can find that in an article called Mega Structure. The Vojnica River is a megalithic structure. So it's essentially a built river system, and it's one structure. So the pyramids find themselves joined through the riverbed. So everything's joined through this riverbed to other structures across the river. And then they're also paired to each other. So literally it's all built.
Well,
so I would go ahead.
I wonder if that water, if that artificial river structure, that water would generate some type of electricity that works in tandem with the beam, the scalar beam. I wonder if it's like a requirement. It's part of the technology. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that if the ancients are building this very, very clearly engineered slope angle to their foundation of their structures, they knew that water was going to come through there. So in other words, they started with the river course. So yeah, it's the primary fundamental thing they needed, and then they went up and built their other structures. But they said, yeah, water's coming through here. We need water here. They could have built it so there's no water coming through. They could have, built it up on a hill. So they didn't.
Why would they build it for no reason? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's like a multi-purposed object. It's the foundation for the pyramids, but it's also a river course that can and water's one of the primary magics. And I go into this in my video in Rock Creek in California that talks about the magic of water, and Victor Schauberger and the vortexing of water and the negative ions that are created by turbulence to give life, to give health to the entire biosphere. The negative ions are helping us.
Well, that's like just having a waterfall in your home or something like that. Like people, we subconsciously like that because it feels good. You might not understand why you like being around waterfalls, but it's the negative ions that you're talking about. It's producing a healing frequency, I guess you could say.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. And interestingly, Ravne Tunnel Labyrinth has such a high negative ion count. And for people who don't know about negative ions, the word negative doesn't mean that it's bad. Positive ions are actually bad for us, and negative ions are good for us. So negative ions, a high negative ion count is super healing for us. And so the yogis would sit by the huge waterfalls. And in fact, the negative ion count of the biggest waterfalls on the planet, Niagara and other places, those are the only places that have higher negative ion counts than Ravne Tunnel. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they have this meter they constantly monitor the negative ion count in the Ravne Tunnel. So that's one of the aspects of healing, that one of the scientific reasons why people get healed is the negative ion count. It also has really high oxygen count, Ravne Tunnel.
So where is the tunnel in relation to the river system?
Well, I'm going to show you some photos of that. Let's see.
Because I wonder if that tunnel is playing a role in the healing frequency or the river is playing a role in the healing frequency of the tunnel. I wonder.
Yeah.
If the tunnel runs along the river system, I don't know where it runs in relation to the pyramids.
Well, that's really interesting, because there are two tunnel systems there. One's called KTK Tunnel, and it is near the riverbed, really near where I first explored. It's at the meeting of the Bosna and the Vojnica rivers. And it's only about, say, 10 meters up. It's above the flooding levels. So they were smart enough to put it up above flood levels. And the KTK tunnel, if you look out onto the Bosna River from KTK tunnel, you see that there's this diagonal construction, but it's a step, so that the water becomes really turbulent right at that step. The negative ions are being generated from that turbulence, and it's right where the tunnel entrance is. So you can imagine the tunnel using the negative ions for its purposes, whatever those were. We're just catching up to the ancients, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we still have share screen? Is it still sharing screen?
Yeah, everything is lagging a little bit. I guess the internet connection is kind of slow, but yeah, I can still see it.
So this is the 45-degree angle construction of the Bosna River. So it's not just that the Foinica has the 45-degree angle construction, so does the Bosna. And I'm actually not talking about the angling of the riverbed in this one, because I hadn't actually come up with that theory yet. I was talking about the step down where there's all this turbulence, bringing the negative ions into KTK tunnel, which is right behind me in this one. So it's just a screenshot. It's a little blurry, but you can find that that video on KTK
Right.
tunnel.
To me, there's no doubt that the river system plays a part in the frequency of the tunnels and the scalar beam, which I'm really curious to hear more about that beam and what kind of test you guys have done on that.
Yeah, I've got a folder on that. We can go into that. Let's see. I was just thinking, all right, so this helps us see what's happening. As I went out to explore the Foinica riverbed to see where the building began, I was going, the river flows north through the complex, but it goes east and then north. So at Bootsy Bridge, which is this little bridge here in this tiny little village, that's where it changes from concrete to clay. So this is pure clay, and the structures in the complex are pure clay, except for the top layer of the Bosnian pyramid of the sun, which is this layers of concrete that they put on top of the clay. So, but this is a concrete riverbed for some reason, and I'm not sure how far that goes as concrete, but they switched it right at that bridge. Now the bridge wasn't there when they switched it. We just happened to have a bridge there to mark that by chance. So this is the concrete of the riverbed above the bridge. And you say, well, that doesn't look much like building. That looks natural. And yeah, it does look natural. But if you look from the bridge, that's what it looks like. And you can see the 45-degree angle construction. It's crisscrossing. To me, it's super clear that that's a built structure. That's all concrete. That's upstream, looking south. And this looks the other way from the bridge. This is downstream. And this is where it's going toward the complex. And this is the 45-degree angle clay layers, 45-degree angle clay layers, and literally right underneath you as you're standing on the bridge, it switches to concrete. So it's pretty crazy.
But that's all fascinating. And to me, that does look like concrete, to be honest. And I think you're onto something there, but I guess time will tell, right?
Well, it was odd because I went on a journey down to South Africa with Michael Tellinger, because he wanted me to make some videos of him. He and Semir are really good friends. So Semir was basically lending me out to Michael, and Semir paid for my plane ticket down to South Africa because he wanted to help Michael out. So I was down there with Michael for a month. And the last day I was there, I went out on my own to see if the hills were built. And I found out that oddly, the hills near Watervalboven in South Africa in Mpumalanga province, which is right where Michael Tellinger's compound is, the hills above the Elands River have these layers that are inclined into the structure, steeply inclined, just like the layers in the Bosnian pyramid complex. All the structures have inclined layers that are facing, weighted into the center of the structures. So whichever face you're facing, it's always going to be weighted inward for structural strength. And it's exactly what the hills of South Africa were. They're not pyramids, they're just hills above a river. Now this was odd. And I went around the circumference of the hill and I noticed that wherever I was, they were weighted inward. In other words, how is nature making a hill they're always weighted inward no matter where you are?
Yeah,
exactly. Know? So this was weird. And then I noticed that when the hill joined the other hill, then it became perfectly flat. They were no longer leaning in, because there was nowhere to lean into, because there was a crevice between the hills. So there's a hill over here. There's a hill over here. It's perfectly flat. And then this was similar to the building between the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun and the Bosnian Pyramid of Love. In that crevice between those paired pyramids in Bosnia, it's perfectly flat. It's clay layers, softer earthquake mitigating layers, and then hard concrete, and then soft earthquake mitigating layers, then hard concrete, all the way up in that crevice between those two pyramids. And on the other side, on the sides of the crevice, you have the really steeply inclined layers. Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, really steeply inclined layers. Bosnian Pyramid of the steeply inclined, well engineered. But in the crevice, it's always flat. And it was exactly the same way in South Africa, the flat joining area. And I was like, okay, this is too much, So then, and it's not like I was going, I'm going to be the continental terraforming theory guy. That's not what I wanted to do. I thought it was weird that I was finding this. I didn't want to find this. This freaks me out. It freaks me out that someone might have built this stuff, because why would they? Who were they? And why would they?
Brings up a lot of questions.
And how did they do it if they did?
Exactly.
And how did they do it? And we're going to get into a possibility for that kind of like might resolve that in a sort of an aesthetic way and an easy way.
Tell us.
Okay, well, if you want, I'll just jump to that, because for 50 years we've been doing 3D printing, and we went from printing a little thing that looked like a little nothing thingamabob that was about 2 centimeters long that did nothing, to printing bridges and houses. So we have accelerated our ability technologically in 3D printing that far in only 50 years. Now, we are also doing 4D printing, which is printing of objects that adapt to their environment, for instance, heat and cold. Now, you get to thinking about this and you go, wait a minute, isn't an organism adapting to its environment? Yeah. Isn't the Earth adapting to its environment with climate? Isn't that what climate is? The adaptation to the Earth, to its environment, as it spins around the sun, as solar winds are coming in, so it's adapting to its environment with climate. That's what it is, So adaptation is the mark of something that's living, that's got it's got an internal intelligence, let's say.
Yeah.
So we're already 4D printing objects in 50 years. What could a civilization do if they had 50 million years to advance their 3D and 4D printing? What couldn't they do?
Exactly.
3D print a continent.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. So let's imagine that you're an advanced race, and you're so advanced that it's like, for fun, you're building planets. And it's like seeds, and you build them, and then you go away and you build another and you build another, and you come back a million years later and you see what happened, what grew there, what happened. It's an experiment. It's fun. I mean, it's something to do. If you're so advanced, what are you going to do? I'm thinking you're going to build planets. So you set up a system. See, this is where we get to Tesla, but let's bypass that for now, and we'll get to it in a second. You set up a system where you're able to extract material from the ether. And there's a randomizing computer program that knows the form of a hill, it knows the form of a riverbed, it knows the form of a creek, it knows the form of a mountain. Basically, there's a basic form, like a Platonic form, and it randomizes these forms automatically. So you're sitting back drinking coffee in your spaceship, or your other dimension where you're totally comfortable just hanging out in space. Whatever you're doing, you're so advanced that it's all good. You're drinking coffee, you're drinking your latte, and the computer's taking care of the randomization of the forms, and you just watch the material from the ether, from the material ether, as Tesla told us, be extracted and form around the torus field that's already there, that then the material shapes around the torus field. It's got a hollow center, because the torus is like a donut, and then it just forms the planet. Now you could have a planet building enterprise that then had a second stage where you shape the continents. You bring the computer program in later, a million years later, you come back and you go, oh, let's shape some continents. And this also gets into the expanding Earth. Now, this is a lot of information coming fast, but let's get back to Tesla really quick. Unless you guys have questions.
I did also. So it's a incredibly out there theory, but it's also not. And
It's really not when you understand.
right, but it's not something that you're going to get on stage at a conference and present your theory, and you'll probably get laughed at for that one. But I definitely think it's not out of the realm of possibility, and it's actually pretty compelling to me. And I do want to hear what you have to say where Tesla ties into this.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because in 1690, this guy, Christiaan Huygens, who was a Dutch mathematician, astronomer, physicist, inventor, super smart guy, amazing guy, rivaled Newton easily. He came up with, he published this book called Treatise on Light. And it was a little book, almost like a pamphlet, but it basically said, he proposed that light is a waveform that travels through a medium. And for centuries, people had already thought about a medium in the universe, and they called it the luminiferous ether. Why did they call it luminiferous? Was it because it was radiant? No, it was because it was light bearing. It was a light bearing ether. That light needs, and Tesla confirms this, light needs a medium to travel through. Mm-hmm. Tesla said light can be nothing else than sound in the ether. A light wave can be nothing else than sound in the ether. It needs a medium. Sound travels through air. Without air, you don't have sound. You need a medium for light. So they understood this back in the day. Academia has suppressed this, and now it's just a void when there's no ether. There's just nothing out there. So you should stay home, Truman, because it's really scary out there. There's no fabric to the universe, nowhere to stand. Yeah. So you have to stay home. Yes. That's academia. So, but Tesla, who's been discarded in every possible way by academia, the smartest scientist ever to have lived, is basically marginalized to a guy wwho was in love with a pigeon.
Crazy. That's how. He's just a crazy guy. Yeah, that's literally what. Yeah.
So Tesla took this idea up. In 160 years later, Tesla comes on the scene in Smiljan, Croatia, which was Austrian Empire back then. Now it's Croatia, and he 3 decades later, he's talking about the ether. He saw how important this medium was for what he was observing in his lab and in the universe. So he published articles and a letter to the editor of the New York Times, and many different letters to the editor about this. And you're like, why is he publishing about the ether? Why isn't he just publishing about his wireless energy? Wouldn't that be the thing that he was a big deal? Why is he talking about the ether? Well, he's publishing about this, and even in these articles, he's saying, oh, by the way, if you thought that wireless energy was the big deal, it's not. Anybody could do it. It's simple. It's being done right now. What's going to be the big deal, and you saw this in the article headline in I think it was July 1930 or June 1930, there was a syndicated article that went all across the United States through the Hearst Publishing Company, and it was called Man's Greatest Achievement. And you're like, wow, Tesla wrote an article called Man's Greatest Achievement? It must be wireless energy. No, he's writing about the future. He's not even writing about what he did in the past or what he's about to do. It's writing about man's future. Someday, man's greatest achievement is going to be this. What is that? It's extracting material from the luminiferous ether, the light-bearing ether. And in that moment of extraction, which is you have to whirl the ether, you give the ether motion in a helical way, that very motion is the matter. So the ether is matter in motion, or matter is the ether in motion, I should say. And by giving motion to the ether, we can become creators of worlds. And he says this, we can build planets, we can move planets. He says, without much effort, we can create worlds from the ether, and this will be man's greatest achievement. And I'm reading this just a few weeks ago, going, oh my God, he said this? Well, of course, he must have been thought of as just a fantasist.
Right.
He knew the science behind it. That's the thing. Like he understood the science.
That's actually pretty incredible. Yeah.
It's pretty mad. I mean, people did believe in the ether back then, but still, a person who's just a regular person reading that, what are they going to do with that information? They're just go, wow, that sounds crazy. they just go back to going dancing and whatever they did, you know. So it just kind of got lost in time. And then academia came along with they simplified Maxwell's equations. So James Clerk Maxwell came along, and he was talking about the electromagnetic nature of light, and he made these amazing equations. And Tesla was a big fan of these equations, and they included the ether in the equations. Then Oliver Heaviside came along, simplified Maxwell's equations, discarded the ether, discarded Tesla's ether from the equations, and then academia took the simplified version and said, there's no ether, because Oliver Heaviside is our new authority. It's like, really? Because that's not what Tesla said. He said James Clerk Maxwell was right about the ether. So they're discarding Tesla. It's a systematic discarding of the ether. Why would the thought control system want to discard the ether? Well, for the same reason that they want to discard a universe of infinite time. They give us the Big Bang nonsense, 13.8 billion years as a time limit for the universe. Oh, it was born 13.8 billion years ago, because we would therefore plausibly imagine that we're the first advanced race. We're the first race to raise our heads above the muck and mire. You know, so therefore we don't have a galactic family. We're alone. Oh, and there's no ether. It's a void. Stay home, Truman. Fucking stay home. Okay. It's scary out there. There's nobody out there, and there's nothing out there.
Yeah. And also they don't want us understanding, because if you understand the ether, you know, you can tap into the ether, and there's where free energy and everything else, you know, so. And that's why everything's connected through that as well. So it's all these concepts and things they don't want us discovering and thinking about. So they're just like, oh, there's just no ether, and it goes right into the whole like scarcity. You know, everything's finite, and you know, there's only so many resources to go around, so they can keep that scarcity and like.
That's why
with that, you know. So
that's why people have such a hard time wrapping their head around free energy technology. Even like this Omnia patch that, you know, we get a lot of shit about. But just for the record, Ken Rolla looked at this patch and he verified it. It's some sort of a scalar energy, but it's
Michael
tapping
Tellinger
in.
also actually endorses
Michael
it too.
Tillinger actually endorses the Omnia patch now. Yep. But it's a free energy technology that's balancing, that's reharmonizing the frequency, and it's working. It looks totally insignificant because we are not taught about the ether. We don't understand how we can tap into this stuff and actually utilize it. So it's not, they designed it that way so people can't figure it out, and they call bullshit on it. And obviously it's all a big trap, you know, a big loop.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the scalar beam coming out of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, because this ties in absolutely perfectly through the work of this incredible Serbian electrical engineer, Goran Marjanovic, who studied the beam on the Pyramid of the Sun. It ties in with the ether. So the scalar energy, which the Russians call torsion fields or torsion waves, and which Tesla called non-Hertzian waves, non-Hertzian energy, that is all, let's just call it scalar, because that's just one word for, these are just different names for the same thing. It's scalar energy that ties in with the ethers, and the key is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. So I'm going to just, even though the audio might glitch a bit, I'm going to share screen because I got to show you some stuff.
All right.
Let's see, where can I find that?
So you guys, real quick though, you measured that the beam has been measured. Somehow they measured that, how far that energy beam reaches above the pyramid, right? That's been done. Do you know anything about the results of that?
I do. I interviewed Goran Marjanovic, who made the measurements, and I interviewed him twice for 2 articles called "The Scalar Conundrum." So if anyone wants to know about the scalar beam on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, go to the Scalar Conundrum, the first one, and then there's another one which talks about the conundrum in relationship to Tesla. So that's all there, all the videos, all the things. But I also interviewed him on video. He was. This is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun in the background. There's some sheep. They don't usually have fences in Bosnia, so everything's open, and it's a really wonderful country to go to. The researcher Domagoj Nikolic is here. from Croatia. This is Goran Marjanovic, the Serbian electrical engineer. They were going to put some microlight drones up, some kind of balloon up with instruments, and it was too windy. So I got a chance to interview them because they weren't busy. They were waiting for the wind to stop. And I interviewed Goran, and you guys can find that. It's called Pyramids as Resonance Objects. And he talks all about scalar energy. It's astounding. You got to go check that out. So that's Goran. Now he's the man. He's the connection between Tesla's ether and the scalar energy that is coming out of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. And that's everywhere, by the way. So he started the Belgrade Heritage Club in Belgrade. He's the intellectual founder of this thing. And then people, investors put money toward him so he could make Tesla coils and experiment with Tesla machines and do tons of research. So here he is with crystals and machines, and he's, notice he doesn't have a lot of art on the walls. He's not looking at the walls. He's looking at these machines. He's looking at what crystals are doing. He's looking at what coils are doing. What did Tesla say? What's the next step? Here's him doing microlight drone exploration of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. This is him preparing for that. Here's him on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, heading up toward the pyramid. He's going to put this microlight drone with all his instruments on it for measuring the beam coming out of the Pyramid of the Sun. All right. So there's the article. Now, can you see, am I sharing screen okay that you can see this beam coming out of the pyramid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you notice the shape of the beam. It's not a columnar shape.
It's a double helix.
That's exactly right. So what Goran found was, what he did was he took the microlight drone. See, 4 different independent researchers had already come out, research teams had already found this 28 kilohertz electromagnetic beam coming out of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. They already found it. It had a definite edge. Here it's not there. Here it is there. So 9 meters, 9 meters wide at the surface of the pyramid. And so 4 teams found that, independent researchers. Then Goran came and said, what's the shape? I'm going to take a microlight drone up, and I'm going to go across it. I'm going to put it up a little higher, go across it, put it up a little higher, go across it. And we're going to mark the shape of this beam. I don't know why he got the idea to do that, but he did. And what he found was that the beam starts actually small at 9 meters and then goes out to 21 meters and then comes back to 9 and goes out to 21 and goes back to 9 and goes out to 21. So it's in a repeating ellipsoid shape above the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Most of the photos you see have a straight column coming out, but this is an artistic rendering. I want to make it clear. This is a photo that was manipulated digitally to give us an idea of what this shape is, because you can't see scalar energy, just like you can't see the 28 kilohertz beam coming out, but you can measure these things. Now, can we measure scalar energy directly? Goran says no, but he detected what he calls a shadow of scalar energy. And you guys can read about all this in the Scalar Conundrum series. Then that's the video you want to go to. Your pyramids as resonance objects. That's Goran talking on the Pyramid of the Sun about the beam and about scalar energy and what it means.
Now, did that beam go indefinitely, like as high as he could measure?
Well, I don't know if it goes indefinitely, but yeah, I mean, he never said that there was an end to it. So yeah.
I thought that I heard Sam Osmanovic say once that it somehow they were able to measure that it actually, the further away from the pyramid they got, the stronger it was.
Well, this is exactly what Tesla said about non-Hertzian waves, which is what scalar energy is. He said that as it leaves the source, it gets stronger.
Okay.
But the connection to the ether with scalar energy is, I'm just going to stop share for a second. All right, so scalar energy, torsion fields, Tesla's non-Hertzian waves, connects to the ether in this way. Goran Marjanovic said that scalar energy is like an accordion player. So let's say that I'm the scalar energy and I'm playing the etheric accordion. So the ether is the accordion and I'm compressing the accordion and rarefying the accordion. So it's a volumetric expansion and compression that scalar energy is doing to the ether, which academia says doesn't exist. See, so if you go to astrophysics, the premises in astrophysics and in earth sciences are corrupted. So everything that follows is corrupted.
Yeah,
so
exactly. The base premise
so,
is BS, and then everything follows that. So
Yep.
And it's all designed to keep you hitting a dead end, basically. So you don't believe in things like time travel or speed of light. You can't travel faster than the speed of light. And all that
well,
stuff.
exactly. And Ken Rolla, once you mentioned it, Aaron, Ken Rolla's key. I was watching the video of his yesterday. In fact, I interviewed him.
Awesome.
You guys got to go check out this video. You guys, meaning all of you guys, you two guys, and whoever's listening. Please check out this video, Blueprint for Existence. Ken Rolla is talking about scalar energy and the monoatomic elements and the crystalline nature of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun and other structures, because the clay that it's built out of is crystalline. And so the concrete is compressing it, and this compression, this weight on the material of the pyramids itself, that creates scalar energy, creates a scalar field. So he goes into this in detail. It's pretty astounding. So Blueprint for Existence, and that's on my Bosnian Pyramids channel on YouTube. So Ken Rolla, he and Goran Marjanovic are the scalar energy guys. They understand what it's doing. You know, they understand its fundamental relationship to the ether. The Indian, the Veda philosophy is that the universe is a breathing regime, they call it. So the universe is breathing. Why is it breathing? Well, because as science has found, real science, Tesla science, Goran Marjanovic, Serbian electrical engineer science, he's furthering Tesla's work. The universe is breathing because scalar energy is compressing and rarefying it. And you have an instant connection, just like if you pull a sheet, you don't have to wait. The other side of the sheet is not waiting for some time to elapse. It's instantly affected. So the universe is connected, and they call it quantum entanglement or something like that, or something at a distance. What's it called? Something at a distance.
Spooky action at a distance. Einstein.
Yeah, something like that. They've gotten rid of the ether, so they're like, oh, it's so mystical. No, it's not.
We don't know. That's crazy. What?
You don't need mathematical formulas. You just need to bring Tesla's ether back, and you have a medium that's being volumetrically compressed and rarefied by scalar energy. So there's this beautiful relationship between scalar energy, which has the blueprint for all life, by the way, and that's where Ken Rolla comes back in, because academia is telling us in another gaslighting bunch of nonsense that at the center of each galaxy is a star-sucking demon called a black hole.
Yeah.
Ken Rolla says it's a singularity that's dark, not because it's pulling in all light,
everything. Yeah.
It's streaming out light that's superluminal light.
Superluminal light, exactly.
Which we can't see because it's dark, or maybe you could say black. That might be a misleading term, but we can't see the superluminal light. It's traveling much, 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 much faster than our standard speed of light. Yeah. The light that we see from the sun is traveling at the speed of light that we understand.
So our instruments can't pick it up, so they just call it. Exactly.
We can't see the superluminal light coming from the scalar energy, which has the blueprints for all life in it, coming from the center of the galaxy. And each galaxy has this singularity that is feeding us with blueprints. Mm-hmm. Our chromosomes are antenna that are picking up the blueprint information from the scalar waves coming from the singularity at the center of the galaxy, and it's rebroadcasting it. So the chromosomes are transceivers. They're receiving the scalar blueprints for life, and they're rebroadcasting it in a field that we call matter, because it seems like solid matter is condensing, but it's really, if you put an electron microscope up to us, or a microscope that can really, really see how material we are, it turns out we're not material. We're just nothing there. So really, it's a field. It's a rebroadcast field that we see as, and we interact with as solid, but it's not really a solid thing. It's just a different phase change of the scalar energy blueprint, a manifested field.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's interesting too how they make the going back to the black hole thing, how they put so much fear around that, like, oh, you'll get sucked in, it's a void, whatever. But I've heard the theory also that on the other side of every black hole is like it's like another universe, almost like it's like a portal or a Stargate, and they probably don't want people to discover that, so they want you to basically stay as far away from it as possible, if there's any truth to that.
Well, that's interesting, because but we see the thought control matrix again. We always have to come back to that. Why? When we say cui bono, who benefits? Well, who benefits from them telling us that there's a star-sucking demon at the center of every galaxy? Well, we don't benefit. We're just living in fear. Oh my God, that's terrible. Everything's going to be destroyed. That doesn't make sense. I live in a chaotic, incoherent universe. There's a void out there. We have no galactic family. We're alone. Okay, well, we should probably just sit at home and sit by our heaters as long as they work, because electricity might not be on for much longer because we don't have the money. I mean, it's just endless nonsense.
They really don't want us believing that the universe is an intelligent, living universe and that we are a part of that. Like that's
it's the electric. They want. The whole electric aspect of the universe is key, honestly.
And the fractalization of because that's what like scalar energy it fractalizes, and that's why, because Ken Rillo was talking about that in his presentation. He's like, this is why everything in nature shows up as a fractalized kind of thing, because that's how the energy moves, and that's like our bodies are like that. That's why like lightning doesn't just shoot straight down to the ground in a beam, because they try to say electricity follows the path of least resistance. Well, if that's true, it would just be a straight beam straight down. It wouldn't do all this like zigzagging. Well, that's because the fractalization, and that's why trees are like fractal, and plants and everything else, like
everything, honestly.
It's like if you just study nature, it proves all this stuff. It's like you just observe it,
Right. So the electric energy is following the scalar fractal lines, and that's how we see what is really should be invisible to us. The scalar structure of the universe is because we can see the electric lines following it. So yeah, you're right. So the lightning gives us a clue about the invisible magician of scalar volumetric energy, that's out there, that's just there, literally breathing the universe. It's astounding,
Wow. So going back to your theory about the 3D printed Earth. It's funny to say it like that, but the riverbeds look. You see how 3D printed homes are made, and there's those layers. They're made in layers. That's exactly what that riverbed structure looked like, as if a 3D printer would have made that. And
that's awesome. I never thought about that, but that's exactly right. Right.
Yeah. So to me, that's immediately what I thought when I saw that. Like, because you've seen those videos of the 3D printed homes. It's all done in layers, and it wouldn't take nothing for them to alternate layers of different materials. But anyway, your theory also, you mentioned a hollow core in the Earth because of the torus field, and which would automatically make the Earth hollow. And it's just interesting to me because the hollow Earth theory has been around a long time. And it's kind of fell to the wayside. Like I watched this documentary, pre-1930, that was a pretty common theory, actually. The hollow Earth theory was very well known. And then obviously academia took over and started, manipulating history and giving us whatever version they want us to have. But
the whole mantle and core, that's all just a theory they came up with to explain.
Right.
They're just like, oh, this is what it is because we just decided. It's like, that's it.
Right. But there's some very compelling evidence that this proves that way in the early 1900s, that's just all been forgotten.
Well, I wanted to engage this in a research way. So a couple of years ago, I wrote an article called The Hollow Earth, What to Expect when you're expecting inner Earth relatives. So it's basically like who's living inside the Earth and what we should expect. Like who are we going to meet if we go to the Hollow Earth, if they come out, So it goes into this weird distortion that academia has made of, or this fanciful theory that there's a molten core. It goes back to this guy, Henry Cavendish, who did this experiment to determine the density of the Earth. And he did it with four balls, lead balls, 2 large ones, 2 small ones, some wood and some wires, and that was supposed to determine the density of the Earth. I mean, it was kind of an ingenious idea, I have to admit it, but I feel that the sensitivity of the equipment would not be enough to determine the density of the Earth. But this is like touted as this astounding way that they figured out that the Earth is essentially solid, but with a molten core. And so this is their way of saying, no, there's no hollow Earth. You know, it's just like this guy with some wood, some balls.
That's
I
the
don't
science behind it. Yeah.
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 Right.
So it's always been this, and academia is just one branch of the thought control matrix. There's the media and there's other things, but academia is like, it's consistent in doing things like having theories promoted that don't have evidence behind them. For instance, the Big Bang Theory, that was, I have a huge, I mean, I could go on for hours with tons of slides about how the Big Bang Theory has been falsified by Holt and Arp and by astronomers who look at the sky. Holt and Arp said, if you want to falsify the Big Bang Theory, you just point a telescope at the night sky.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Man,
yeah. And then it's like, until you look into these things yourself, you like look behind the curtain, so to speak, then you realize, wait a second, these are these theories they're using to build everything off of that are like a joke.
Right.
There's nothing proving these are true, and in fact there's a lot proving they're not true.
Yeah, I mean, I've got so many books from the Big Bang. This is I'm not sharing screen, but let me just show you this book, Seeing Red. It's awesome.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't have to. Oh yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah, Seeing Red, Halt and Arp, and he's talking about redshift. Let's see if there it is.
Oh yeah, redshift.
So Seeing Red, and he's a scientist, so he's got endless math and endless, and I can't follow him, but I can read his conclusions, and his conclusions are that, along with the other books that I have that go on and on about this, Hilton Radcliffe wrote a great book called the Static Universe, which is the main model that opposes the Big Bang universe. And by static, theorists don't mean that there's no dynamic changes going on. There's still suns being born, suns dying, galaxies merging, but it's static in the sense that it's not expanding. We don't see the evidence of that. And so this is a predictive theory, whereas the Big Bang universe is non-predictive, but that's academia's choice. And it's like, what? Right.
Keep us in the dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like so the theory of the hollow Earth is that some people say it's like the crust, the Earth's crust is like 300 miles thick all the way around, and there's a hole at the top and the bottom, and and that's where the energy flows. But 300 miles is a thick crust if you think about that. That's pretty substantial. And it would still allow for magma and all that stuff to occur. It just doesn't have to come from a core. And that's where they deceive us, if that's even accurate, And that measurement comes from people who claim to have stumbled across inner Earth civilizations in the early 1900s, sailing their ship into whatever. The Smoky God book is allegedly an accurate. Basically, you're reading a diary of a father and son who stumbled upon the entrance of inner Earth, and they spent like 2 years there and came back. One survived and shared a story, and he was put in an insane asylum for the rest of his life because at that time everybody thought he was absolutely nuts. But when you read it, and they provide a lot of details, and if you look at that as fact, which is what he claims, things make a lot of sense. And he even discusses the river system, and how some of the rivers that are on the surface, some of the more well-known rivers, like the Euphrates River, they all originate from inner Earth. It's just like it has above, so below.
The bones that in like Siberia or something that
right.
So they all end up in these piles, and
the mastodon bones that are abundant in Siberia, according to this book. They're still living, breathing species in inner Earth, and when they die, they pretty much reside along these rivers that flow out into our oceans. And when they die, the bones somehow make their way into the river, and then they all end up in this location in Siberia. And these people think that they're digging up these ancient bones, and they're not all that ancient
I
at
think
all.
they're ancient, just like, oh,
Like-
it's like a burial site or something.
Yeah, they thought it was some
Right.
burial site, but he's saying this is just downstream of where they're ending up over time.
Mhm.
And
Right,
it's
so
all
they're shocked that they're so well preserved,
right, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's
And
like,
it's a fascinating book, guys. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Smoky God, Olaf Jansen, I think. It's absolutely fast. It's a quick read too. But I
he
recommend
found
it.
all this. He found all this amazing the vegetation that was, the fruit was larger, everything was larger,
yeah,
Right.
and more healthy. It was just a really healthy environment, and
Yeah.
people who were larger and
Right.
astounding. But also, we know that caribou migrate north for the winter, and so the academia's line is that the way they survive by migrating north in the winter is by eating lichen off of rocks. And you're like, you're insane. You're insane if you think a big caribou is going to be able to eat enough lichen to survive the freezing cold of the north. But then you find out it's not freezing. As we know from testimonials from people who have sailed up there or have taken ships up there, it gets warmer.
It's almost tropical.
It gets warmer, and then you start to go.
at a certain
Then,
point.
then your compass stops working, and you start to go.
And then it goes.
Gravitationally, you're bound, so it still feels like you're going this way, but really you're going this way.
Well, and that's
gravity is in the shell, so
Right.
It's the toroid. Yeah, it's
it's a toroid.
It's a toroid. Yeah.
well, that's important to understand also for people who are confused about gravity. So that what they were told by these inner Earth people is that the gravity belt is in the center of the crust. So you got a 300-mile thick crust, and then you
Right.
have a gravity belt at 150 miles.
Right.
So gravity acts the same on top of it as below it. And
Yeah.
you would never know the difference if you're standing upside down or not. And gravity doesn't come from the core. And
Right.
so that's just something important to understand if that is in fact the case.
That's a key thing, because otherwise people just dismiss it if they don't understand that would be physics would tell us that the gravity is in the shell,
Right. Yeah.
So that makes scientific sense. But also this hollow earth theory corroborates with it agrees with the expanding earth theory, because that actually agrees with a 3D or 4D printed Earth by an advanced race or races, which is that to be explained in this way: if you're an advanced race and you're having some fun dropping seeds, planetary seeds throughout the galaxy, are you going to spend time making a large seed, or it's easier to make a small seed? So you build the small Earth. It's like Pangea, except that there are no oceans. So if you take that supercontinent that's supposed to be floating in all these massive oceans and stuff, you wrap it around itself, that's what I think the Earth originally was. Really small, just rocky, no oceans. But there are seams between what we call the continents, right? So the ancients printed it to have seams that would be a place for expansion over time. So they create this engine of expansion by creating the volcanic mechanisms, which would spread the seams apart, spreading the continents apart. The continents remain intact. The seabeds grow over time, little by little. Volcanic action. More matter is always coming in from the sun. It's magnetically charged electrons, protons, and other ions. And this is James Maxwell's theory for the origin of the extra mass that's needed to grow an expanding Earth. Because otherwise, if the Earth expanded without more mass coming in from the sun, it would just have this really thin shell and this huge hollow space inside, and then just break apart or something,
Yeah.
But the mass actually does increase as the size of it, as the diameter increases. So the seafloor spreading is recognized by geology. They call it seafloor spreading. But they think that it's a zero-sum game, because there's this something called subduction with the plate tectonics theory.
Right. They think as it expands, other plates are,
going under. And so it's a zero-sum game, and it's not expanding. But the expanding Earth theorists say that it is the full diameter of the Earth is getting larger, the mass is getting greater, which means gravity is much stronger now than it was during, for instance, the time of Jurassic Park back in the day, 65 million years ago. Before that, we had a smaller Earth, and that's why these larger organisms, not just animals, not just Brontosaurus and Allosaurus and T-Rex, but fungi and plants and insects, dragonflies the size of birds flying around.
And the giants.
And who knows, even humans, like giants.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they were giants. Exactly.
Right. I mean,
they're just responding to their environment. So it's not that, oh, I'm going to adapt through time and become, let's say that as the Earth gets larger, we had to adapt through time to become smaller. No, we just naturally grow smaller in an electrical environment because gravity is electric. It's a dipole force. It's a radial dipole force that Wallace Thornhill has explained is a weak force that is the combination of all those radial, meaning coming from the center of the Earth out in every way, and the particles are aligning in this vertical way radially. And that weak force of all those dipoles is gravity. It's an electric force. So, we have this thing we call it gravity. It's electricity working on us, and it creates a smaller body through time. As the gravity gets larger, the body says, "Oh, I can't grow as large because I won't be able to move." So it just makes us smaller through time. In the plant queendom, the animal kingdom, fungi, all of it. It just gets smaller. And the fossil record shows that,
And if grays are us from the future, that would explain why they're even smaller. I mean,
interesting.
If you really think about that, they've shrunken down so much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, man, we've been going for a long time, and this has been absolutely mind-blowing. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. We'll have to have you back on again and get deeper into some of this stuff. And
Totally.
And I'm going to take you up on that trip to Bosnia because my back needs some miraculous healing for sure.
I'm going to go with you guys.
Oh, yeah. I remember you talking about that. Yeah, right. We should see what happens.
If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm in pain right now just sitting here. It's very uncomfortable for me to sit for long periods of time. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. This has been great. Seriously, thank you for sharing this. Do you have anything, any links, where can people find you? You want to share any of that?
Well, there's a couple places to go, I think, that might be useful for people. I think the Bosnian Pyramids YouTube channel is good. Really, really good. And then that's the backup channel. Samir said, I want a backup channel for my Bosnian Pyramids TV official channel. So if you want to go to the one that has all the different languages, Bosnian, Croatian, Spanish, all the different languages of videos, English, go to Bosnian Pyramids TV. Mine is mostly just English. Those are really helpful. I would go, if you want to go to continental terraforming, those are all collected in a playlist called Artificial Riverbeds on my own personal channel. It's Jock Doubleday on YouTube. There's also an archaeological explorations playlist. And there's 40 videos in the Artificial Riverbeds playlist, and it documents the various features of the riverbeds, including the diagonal construction, the 45-degree diagonal construction. Right. So those sites are good. Then An American in Bosnia has articles, and that is the original site was on Google, so it's Blogspot. But then I switched over to WordPress, so the more recent ones are on WordPress.
Okay, and then you'll have to send me all those links, and I can put those in the description also. For people who didn't take all that in. But yeah, thank you so much, Jock, for joining us today. Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Thank you for all the support, all the donations. We can't do this without you. We love you all. And I guess that's it. Until next time, have a great evening, and we'll be back soon.
He said, listen, give me 2 years. You'll never want to come back. You'll have the adventure of a lifetime, and nobody will know you're gone.
You get deployed at 17 and a half. And now I was deployed from the New York Athletic Club, and we got actually deployed right out of the locker room from, you get beamed up to the ship, and then the ship takes off and you're gone for 20 years.
It's a very hard pill to swallow, but that's exactly how I experienced it. I was taken at 10 years old. I was taken and I was worked through several black programs. I was privately owned in the beginning. I did six or 7 years on Earth.
That's when all the stuff for the programs began for me. Specifically, the tracking that they had been doing since I was a kid, it followed me all the way through the military. And at that point, when I got to Diego Garcia, that's where I was taken off planet.
Kind of like opened that floodgate for me. And then all of these recalls started coming in, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And the way I was describing it, she's like, I've never had this with a client, but you're describing a parallel life right now.
It's a combination of human and other species. I was able to remember the name on their uniform. It's USS Arcorp. That was putting me through some kind of recruitment tests from age 3 until 12. And 12 is when I was potentially, taken.
He said, with your scores, I guarantee you'll make commander and you'll make pilot. And I said, pilot of what? And he said, 4-kilometer-long starship. He told me what was going to happen. He says, you volunteer for the program, we'll put you in, you'll do 20 years, we'll send you back in time 20 years, age regress you 20 years, wipe your memory, and you'll just wake up in bed like nothing happened.
It's almost beyond words, it's beyond comprehension of how this could happen. Whoever's masterminding this, the Air Force, working with extraterrestrials, working with a lot of pretty wild technology, which I'll also get into, it's really beyond fathomable. It's beyond fathomable.